Hello there, I'm Nathalia Melo, your unfiltered fit BFF, mom of two turned CEO of a fitness empire. Someone who understands the struggles of trying to stay fit, sane, and sexy, all while juggling work, life, and motherhood. And this is the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. Follow along wherever you're listening and join me weekly as I help busy working moms just like you simplify their fitness journey so they can lose weight, regain their confidence, and feel sexy AF. It's time to stop living in the what ifs and hiding from the cameras. It's time to regain control over your body, feel sexy naked, and wear a bikini confidently. People already see you as a super confident woman, but it's time for you to feel the same way too. Let's go. Hello there, fam. Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. I am Nathalia Melo, your host, and today I am going to be talking about a topic that is very, very close to my heart. I speak very openly about it on my social media, and it's a big mistake that a lot of women are making without even realizing. In this one mistake, I'm watching it cost so many women their fitness goals, their happiness to an extent because they're working so hard and not getting the results that they want. And they feel frustrated, they feel defeated, they feel unhappy. And it's also costing them their sanity because whenever you're putting a lot of effort into something and doing the best that you know how to do and you're getting nowhere, you start to think that something's wrong with you. Like, what's wrong? Am I broken? Am I messed up? Well, like, what's going on? But before we get started, I want to give a shout out to someone who left a review on the Apple podcast. Thank you so much for leaving a review. Let me see if I can say it's ALK6345. And she says, totally agree with you on this. For me, I'm consistent, but I know I need help in some areas. The fact that you have a coach stood out to me. Even the best of the best have coaches, eye-opening for me. Can't wait to visit with you. Thank you so much for the review. I really appreciate it. We have a few others. I am going to be reading the other reviews here on this podcast because these reviews and the feedback that I get on social is the reason why I keep on doing what I do, sharing my experience, my knowledge, my opinions. You don't necessarily have to agree with my opinions. I listen to a lot of podcasts on people that I don't necessarily agree, but I do think that is a very good way to expand your horizon and to see things from a different perspective. So if you feel inclined to take 5 minutes of your time, even less, and leave a review, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Back to today's episode. Because we really need to talk about this mistake that is costing women a lot more than what they feel it is. And I'm going to start by talking about my background. If you're new here, hi, I'm Nathalia. I come from the background of doing bodybuilding competitions. I competed for a long time. I won the biggest bodybuilding competition in the world, the Olympia. And I loved the experience, the friendships that I made, the accomplishments, what it has taught about myself. But I have been very vocal about the strategies used in the bodybuilding space whenever it comes to getting in shape, the extremes they're used, the very dichotomous vision whenever it comes to the way in which someone is going to get in shape, very extreme. You're not allowed to do a lot of things. And the whole idea that more is always going to be better. I was having a conversation yesterday with a new member of my signature program, the Powerhouse Academy. And in the conversation, we were talking about how, every time that you stopped seeing results, the solution was always, oh, let's add more cardio. Let's cut the calories even more. It was always the idea of more was better. Until we got to a point that, at least for me, I can tell you from my experience, I was doing 4 or 5 hours of cardio a day. I was eating virtually nothing. I was running my body to the ground, but that's what I thought that was needed in order to get results. And here's a little like, side note, I am not saying that in order to get results, you do not have to put in the work. You do not have to make some sacrifices and make choices. But the idea that the only way that you can get results is by doing more and increasing caloric restriction and more cardio and more training and more supplements and more mentality is what left me in a place where I didn't think that I was ever going to be able to be in shape if I didn't spend hours in the gym and ate out of a Ziploc bag. I cannot begin to tell you how many trips I turned away or cut short because I was going to be out of my environment and I didn't know how to behave. Like, there is actually a trip to New Zealand that I was invited to do an appearance. I was embarrassed to go because I didn't feel like I looked good enough, for one. I didn't know how I was going to navigate my nutrition when I was there to look a certain way. Like, you was insane. And that's kind of why I have made a big part of my mission to make sure that women, especially that come from this very restrictive background, especially former bodybuilding competitors or former collegiate athletes that were gymnasts or in any kind of sports that are very body conscious in the sense of the appearance of the body. And for the longest time, the advice was like, eat less food. And the openness in which you talk about other people's body was wild. Sometimes I look back at comments, even in TV shows and things like that, and I'm like, holy shit, how is it that people are talking like that? So whenever I think about everything that I had to do in all the more mindset involved around my competitive career, and again, I understand that somebody can say, oh, but Nathalia, you're competing in the biggest bodybuilding competition in the world. And I get it. I'm a high achiever. I always had the mindset that is like, I am not going to step on the stage feeling like I have been outworked by anybody here. I might not win, but you better believe that I'm not going to walk in feeling like I have been outworked by anybody. So I get it. The whole mindset that more is going to be better. But whenever it comes to staying sane and managing a lot of the responsibilities that most women have now in their lives compared to when they were in competition prep or they were college athletes or they were dieting for their wedding or whatever it is that they had to go the route that was a little bit more aggressive, they need to understand that that strategy is likely not applicable to the life that you have now, especially if since then you've had career change, you've had life events, you've had children, you've had to take care of sick parents, all of that. So the biggest mistake that is costing women their sanity, their physique, their happiness, their fitness goals, and sometimes their relationships with the people they love is utilizing contest prep strategies or whatever extreme diet they did to get ready for a wedding or whatever diet they did in college because it worked then, but then they felt miserable. And then they start beating themselves up. That's a conversation that I have all the time. And it comes back to that whole idea of the more. I just need to be more strict. But then I struggle on the weekend. So if this is something that is resonating with you, I want to ask you, how is being more strict going to solve the problem that on the weekend you go off the rails and you eat for a family of 25? What if the over restriction from Monday through Thursday is what is holding you back from success? Because then whenever it comes, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you go off the rails because that is the mindset that, for example, I'm going to use a lot of contest prep as a way to describe the strategy, but I just want to make it very clear that it doesn't necessarily mean just contest prep. because I see a lot of women experiencing the same thing with, like I said before, collegiate athletes like former gymnasts or anybody that had a very body centric sports, or they had to overly restrict themselves for some kind of event like a wedding and things like that. So understanding that more is not better, because one of the biggest concerns for the majority of women that I speak to is, oh my goodness, I don't have time. I do not have time. Can somebody explain to me how in the world you think that you're going to be able to stick to a strategy that you did whenever, you were training 2 hours a day now, and with that mindset that to solve the problem you just have to do more. Oh, I'm going to do more cardio. If you're already doing 2 hours in the gym and you're working 10 hours a day, and you have kids and you have a family and you have somewhat of a social life, how is it that doing more is going to be better? How is it that you're going to find more hours in your day if the challenge that you have is already lack of time? And something that I tell people all the time, Nathalia, today, if I had to go back to the strategies that I used whenever I was competing, I wouldn't last a day. That doesn't make me lazy. That does not make me undisciplined. That does not make me, oh, I just have to be harder on myself. No, it means that I have a completely different life now. I have 3 businesses. I have 2 kids. I have a husband. I have a social life. I have birthday parties that I have to attend with my kids. I have things that I want to do. I have vacations that I want to go. How is it that that strategy would fit in my life now? It doesn't. But so many times, instead of questioning the process, women question themselves. And I'm talking about women who are incredibly accomplished. I have talked with doctors, attorneys, entrepreneurs, women that have built businesses that are worth well over 7-figure. Women who are, CEOs of big corporations, president of banks. And they look at me and they're like, oh, I just don't have the discipline. I'm like, ma'am, excuse me, you finished med school. You managed a team of over 100 and goodness how many people. What makes you think that you are the problem? So I think that we need to start normalizing the idea that it is okay to also question the process. Because just because something worked for you for that season and you got in shape then, it does not mean that it work now. And I see a lot of women resorting to, working with a contest prep coach for life, like for lifestyle. Oh, I want to get in shape to go on a vacation, or I want to get in shape so I can fit my clothes again. So I'm going to hire the contest prep coach that I used when I was competing, and I'm going to be able to get in shape again. Yes, you might as well be able to get in shape again. But what happens after that? Because you are utilizing the same strategy. And this is not like a shot or, dissing any contest prep coaches. Although I do have a lot of opinions about many of them, but that's beside the purpose of this podcast today. But the reality is that a contest prep coach, their goal is to get you in the best shape that he or she can possibly get you to, oftentimes at all costs. And when I mean costs, I'm talking about relationships. I'm talking about sleep. I'm talking about work. I'm talking about your sanity. I'm talking about social life. What happens when you stop that? Let me ask you this. Would it make sense for someone wanting to become a baseball player to go to someone who is specialized in triathlons to be better in baseball? No, you wouldn't. That doesn't make the triathlon coach bad, but it's just not what that person specializes in. And that's okay. But the idea of holding on to those strategies and beating yourself up because you cannot stick to that is breaking women on a daily basis. because they start to lose faith and confidence in themselves, even though they have everything around them showing them that they are not a failure, that they're rock stars, that they are disciplined, that they are competent, that they can be determined, that they can be motivated. But the environment, the strategy, the plan that you're using is not aligned with where you are in life. Oh, but I did it before. That's great. But were you working 70 hours a week? Did you have 2 kids? Were you dealing with perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms then and having to and staying up all night because you're having hot flashes? Did you have all the irons on the fire then like you had now? Or was it more a matter of you know what? I ate a little bit more. I'm just going to go to the gym and do a little bit of extra cardio. And then boom, problem solved. I'm not saying that this is the right way to do it, by the way. I'm not saying this, but this is a pattern of thought process that a lot of people have. Oh, I'm just going to go to the gym. How are you going to go to the gym for extra cardio now if you're just about managing a 30-minute walk with the dog because you're working 70 hours and you have 2 kids and you have to buy birthday present for someone who has 5,000 birthday parties to go to on the weekend? I don't know. And then you have soccer, and then you have baseball, and then you have football. It's a lot more that you have on your plate. And women are constantly telling themselves that they're, I want to be able to go to a kid's birthday party with my kids and not feel like I'm failing if I have a slice of cake. You're not failing. A birthday cake with your child, if you feel like eating a birthday cake, is part of life. I'm not talking about having cake for breakfast, but it's okay. There is nothing wrong with, you're celebrating your 10-year wedding anniversary or 20-year or 15-year, whatever that how it is. And you shouldn't feel guilty, or you shouldn't feel like you're failing, or you shouldn't feel like you haven't been strict enough because you want to have a glass of champagne with your spouse to celebrate being together for 15, 20, 10 years. But all those strategies and resorting to getting help from someone who is not in the business of helping people navigate through life. They're in the business of getting someone in shape at all costs. That's it, the end. It doesn't make it right or wrong, but it does make misaligned with where most people are in their lives if their goal is to be able to live life. So the message that I want to get out from this podcast, if you have resonated with anything that I said here, and let's say that you haven't done contest prep, but you felt a lot of the things that I'm talking about here, I want you to know that you're not alone, that you are not undisciplined, that you're not unmotivated, that you're not a lazy bitch. Just what if, let's think about a different possibility. What if you're struggling to be motivated because you have done the same strategy before 500 other times and it didn't work because it doesn't align with the life that you have now? How are you going to be motivated to try something the exact same way as before and that you have failed 500 times before? How are you going to be motivated to wake up every day and do that? I sure as hell wouldn't. I'm not going to be motivated to do the same thing that I've done exactly the same 500 other times. I'm going to be motivated as hell. And I've won the biggest bodybuilding competition in the world. I am not going to be disciplined to follow a plan if in the past I know that I lost the way or I got the results that I wanted. But then the second that I stopped doing that, I didn't know how to navigate life. I didn't know how to navigate a vacation. I didn't know how to navigate having a glass of wine or a glass of champagne with my spouse because we're celebrating something. So I just go backwards. I sure as how I'm not going to be disciplined to follow something that every single time that I tried before, I went backwards the moment that I stopped doing it. Because I'm already going to start that telling myself how much I suck. But what if the problem is not you? What if the problem is what you're doing, how you're doing it, the strategy that you're using? But if you keep on trying to pull back your contest prep plans or, your diet for the wedding that after you follow through with the wedding, you put on the 25 pounds that you lost within the first week because you went on a honeymoon and you didn't know how to have mimosas and eat from the buffet or have dinner and not blow back up. And again, I'm a big believer that there is a layer of personal accountability and personal responsibility. So I don't want this to be like, it's the world's fault and I'm victim fast. That's not what I'm saying. But the thing is that you don't know what you don't know. If this is the only way that you have done things in the past, you just don't know that there is a different way of doing it. And that is not your fault. It becomes your fault. It becomes a you problem when you keep on repeating the same thing time and time again. Like the saying goes, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If you keep on going back to your old plans or you keep on going back to a contest prep coach that is going to get you in shape, but the moment you stop, you're going to blow back up because you don't know how to live life, then that's on you. You're making the choice of doing the same thing or you're making the choice of doing nothing. And that is the whole purpose of this podcast, is to educate you and show you that there is a different way of doing things. I thought that it was impossible. I remember, and just to close this up, because I feel like so many people feel alone with their experience and how hard this is to feel this way, because not a lot of people understand. And I think that that's not a lot of things that is being openly talked about. And that's why I think it's important to talk about this in this podcast. I remember how whenever I was bartending at the same time that I was getting ready for competitions, and I would see all these girls coming to the bar, super skinny, super lean, and like having a whole bunch of shots and drinking and like having a good time, what young people do. And in my mind, I'll be like, what is wrong with me? Why am I broken? Why is it that the moment that I'm not eating plain chicken breast out of a Ziploc bag and I'm not following drinking a gallon of water a day and not going out to eat anywhere, like that, I blow up and I gain a bunch of weight? And these women are here and they are having a good time. They're having a few drinks. And listen, I'm not talking about getting white girl wasted. Okay. I'm talking about like having a good time and being able to enjoy life. Again, not talking about every single weekend. Everything I'm talking about here is moderation, which is not sexy. But we need to make moderation sexy again. Ooh, that's the slogan there. Let's make moderation. No, it doesn't roll off the tongue. If you have any suggestions on how we can do that, send me a message on Instagram. The link is down in the show notes. Anyway, I digress. It's not sexy. But now, whenever I look back, I realize I thought that something was wrong with me. I'm like, shit, like, why is it that I just like sniff pizza and I gain all the weight and I look at bread and I'm like blowing up because, oh my goodness me, I cannot even look at bread. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Oh my God, just look at carbs and I'm blowing up. Oh my goodness, if I have a drink the next day, I'm going to be like 10 pounds heavier. But now that I'm able to look more clearly, I see that it was always that pendulum swing on the extremes. It was like either no bread at all or like I'm going to eat the whole loaf of bread and then go back to the store and buy 5 more and eat 5 more if I have it at home. I'm not going to have like one shot. I'm going to have like 55 because I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to have it again. So really understanding that there is a different way of doing it. It can feel very daunting when you are in it and you're stuck in that cycle. But I want this podcast to be your sliver of hope that there is a different way of doing it. Okay. With that being said, at the time of this recording, tomorrow, I am going to be hosting a training that is very aligned with what I'm talking about here. We're talking about life and we're talking about being able to enjoy life and do the things and enjoy time with your family and your spouse, your kids and friends. I am going to be hosting a completely free training where I'm going to be teaching you how to avoid vacation fat gain. And at the end of this training, you know exactly what to do to maintain your physique before, during, and after vacation, which is a big challenge for a lot of people. They get ready for the vacation, and then whenever it's on the vacation, they blow up, and then they don't know what to do whenever they get back home. And then it goes back to the same extremes as before to get to look a certain way for the vacation. Does that sound familiar at all for some of you? Yeah. How do I know that? Because I've been there several times. In fact, I have pictures. Actually, the problem is that I don't have pictures, in fact, from vacations that I have gone with my husband, that I hardly have any pictures in a bathing suit because I was just so restrictive leading up to it. And then whenever I got there, it was a free for all. And then I just didn't feel comfortable enough to take photos. And we went to Italy, and I have one photo, actually two pictures of myself in a bathing suit. But the way that I posted the photos, I cropped right under my boobs so my belly doesn't show. And that's not how I want to live life. And I don't want you to live life that way either. This week, I am going to be hosting How to Avoid Vacation Fat Gain. It's going to be on the 18th of July. 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be live. I'm going to be answering all your questions. And I really hope that you can show up live. There is going to be a recording, but I find that most value comes to those who are live there, because anything that you wasn't clear, you get to ask your questions. So I hope to see you there. The link is down in the show notes. Hope today's episode was helpful. As always, thank you for listening. And if you found that today's episode was helpful, make sure that you share it with a friend, you share on social, send me a message. There is a way for you to send me a text letting me know about any feelings that you have about this episode, if it resonated with you, or if you want to talk directly with me, you can just send me a message on Instagram. I'm there all the time, and I'll be more than happy to chat with you and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you so much, and I will chat soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. But let me ask you, what was your aha moment in today's episode? I would love to know. You can leave me a comment or voice message at the link in the show description. You can also follow me on Instagram and let me know what topics you want to hear more about or who I should have on the show. As for today, this is it for today, guys. I'll see you back next week for another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast.